If you want to understand how one person simultaneously runs a space company, an electric vehicle empire, and a global social media platform, you have to look past the headlines and examine the actual baseline of his daily life. For 2 decades, Elon Musk has consistently sustained an 80 to 100-hour workweek, breaking his days into relentless 5-minute increments of focused output. It is easy to look at the world's wealthiest man and assume his success is the result of superhuman genetics or immense inherited leverage. But in 1995, he was a 24-year-old immigrant with no powerful network and no safety net. He slept on the floor of a small Palo Alto office, showered at the local YMCA, and coded software through the night to keep his first startup alive. The problem with treating his current level of output as magic or a genetic lottery ticket is that it gives everyone else a convenient excuse. If his results are supernatural, ordinary people has nothing to learn from him. We write it off as an anomaly, which leaves us without any realistic framework to actually improve our own productivity. The truth is entirely mechanical. The companies he runs today are not the products of luck. They are the direct, cumulative output of a very specific engine of work habits, applied relentlessly, day after day, for nearly 30 years. We can actually synthesize this entire career down into a single repeatable equation. Mission, multiplied by hours, multiplied by first principles, multiplied by risk tolerance, multiplied by feedback loop speed, equals results. Every single variable matters. If one of these multipliers drops to 0, the whole system collapses. We are going to reverse engineer this equation. We will extract the exact habits behind each variable, stripping away the rocket science to find the raw mechanics. Anyone can apply this framework to dramatically scale their own output in their own career. But you can only do it if you are fully prepared to accept the incredibly heavy personal tax that this level of intensity demands. Let's start with the most brutal variable: hours. Time is the only resource that cannot be manufactured. If we look at this projection tracking a standard 40-hour workweek against an 80-hour workweek, the gap becomes clear. Over a single decade, the person working 80 hours accumulates an insurmountable 31,000-hour advantage. You do not have to work 100 hours a week to beat your competition. The average knowledge worker only produces about 3 hours of genuine output a day. If you rigorously protect your calendar, breaking your day into tight, highly focused blocks to eliminate wasted time, a 25-hour week of deep work will dominate almost any industry. Hours alone are useless if you are solving the wrong problems. This requires first principles logic. This is the practice of completely ignoring conventional industry wisdom. Instead, you break a situation down to the absolute fundamental truths you know for certain, and you rebuild your understanding from scratch. When Musk joined Tesla in 2004, the conventional wisdom said electric cars were supposed to be practical, compromised commuter vehicles. Applying first principles, he argued the exact opposite. He insisted the original Tesla Roadster had to be a high-performance sports car. You cannot convince people to change the world by building a product they feel obligated to buy. You have to build something they genuinely desire. The same logic applied to production. Batteries were expensive because no one had ever manufactured enough of them in one place. By designing the Nevada Gigafactory to be the largest building by footprint in the world, the cost per battery plummeted. Cheap batteries meant affordable electric vehicles, and affordable electric vehicles meant mass adoption. By pairing pure first principles logic with a relentless volume of working hours, Tesla systematically scaled a hyper-expensive luxury concept into a global mass-market reality. Consider the risk tolerance variable. In 2001, Musk realized that humanity's progress in space exploration was not stalled by a lack of technology or public interest. It was stalled entirely by the prohibitive cost of buying rockets. Solving that cost problem required taking a risk proportional to the massive size of the goal. That risk nearly broke him. By 2008, SpaceX had attempted to launch the privately developed Falcon 1 rocket 3 times, and all 3 flights ended in catastrophic failure. The companies were days from bankruptcy. Musk had to borrow money for personal expenses, and he deliberately divided his final $40 million between Tesla and SpaceX, choosing to risk losing everything rather than let either mission die. The third flight failure carried severe emotional weight. as the rocket contained the ashes of 208 people, whose remains fell back to Earth and scattered into the Pacific Ocean. Out of money and options, the engineering team poured every lesson from those failures into a fourth and final attempt. On September 28, 2008, the Falcon 1 successfully reached orbit, securing a massive NASA contract and saving the company. That rapid iteration highlights the final multiplier, feedback loop speed. We saw this applied publicly during the 2022 Twitter acquisition. Moving into the company's headquarters, he demanded engineers explain how specific systems operated and then instructed them to shut those systems off. If the platform continued to function, he concluded the system was unnecessary. While controversial, the core mechanism here is highly practical. You accelerate learning by getting real feedback faster. You can apply this immediately by ruthlessly auditing your own schedule. Look at every meeting and ask, is my presence necessary? Could this be an email? If you aren't adding immediate value, walk out and protect your time. Building an entirely new industry from scratch or restructuring a massive existing platform demands an uncomfortable appetite for risk. You must be willing to implement changes, experience failure, and iterate fast enough to leave ordinary competitors paralyzed. Any honest examination of these work habits has to include the invoice. You cannot operate an engine at maximum capacity for decades without causing severe structural damage. The personal toll is heavily documented. Musk has been married and divorced multiple times. His first wife, Justine, described his world as an epic science fiction novel where he plays the hero, leaving partners feeling more like possessions than equals. Actress Tallulah Riley, whom he married and divorced twice, openly discussed the deep challenges of sharing a life with someone operating at that terrifying intensity. The sacrifices extend directly to his children. Despite having 11 biological kids and publicly stating his desire to be a present father, the time constraints make it nearly impossible. In 2022, his eldest son legally changed his name and filed documents officially severing their relationship in every way, shape, and form. Musk has also been transparent about the psychological weight. He has described intense depressive episodes during production crises, reliance on prescription medications, and profound feelings of loneliness, despite being surrounded by thousands of people. He has publicly discussed having Asperger's syndrome, which helps explain his hyper-direct communication style and difficulty with social conventions. The formula works exactly as designed, but this is the full, unvarnished picture. Achieving world-bending business results requires paying a massive, irreversible tax on your relationships and your mental health. You do not need to adopt the destructive chaos or the 100-hour work weeks to see results. You can isolate the healthy variables, mission, first principles, and feedback speed, and apply them directly to your own life. First, find work that connects to something larger than a paycheck. A genuine mission is the only thing that makes high effort sustainable. From there, audit your calendar. If you can increase your deep, productive output by just 10 focused hours a week, you will completely dominate your competition over the long term. Second, accelerate your feedback loops by accepting failure as data. During the Model 3 production hell, Musk attempted to automate the entire factory. It failed terribly. He tweeted that excessive automation was his personal mistake, and humans were underrated. Owning an error publicly is not a weakness. It is the ultimate feedback loop applying to leadership. Look at the sheer distance covered. In 1995, he was an unknown immigrant writing code in a tiny office. Today, he runs the most valuable car company, the most capable rocket manufacturer, a brain-computer interface startup, an AI firm, a tunnel-boring venture, and a major social network. That is the compound interest of persistence. The distance between ordinary and extraordinary results is not about natural talent. It is about a willingness to think more deeply, risk more deliberately, and work harder than everyone around you. Ask yourself the ultimate first principles question. What becomes possible in your own career if you finally refuse to accept the limits that conventional wisdom has assigned to you?
A typical Tuesday for Elon Musk begins at 7 a.m. with immediate Tesla production alerts. By 7:30, he has cleared nearly 50 urgent communications. His morning is an alternating cycle of Tesla engineering reviews and SpaceX design calls. Lunch is 5 minutes at his desk while monitoring Starship telemetry. The afternoon moves from X policy to Neuralink updates and Boring Company site reviews. He returns to the factory floor at 7 p.m., finishes with a midnight document review, and sleeps at 2 a.m. Today, he oversees combined market caps exceeding $1 trillion. But this pace is rooted in a childhood in South Africa, defined by isolation and physical violence. At age 9, he had read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. By 12, he was hospitalized after being thrown down concrete stairs by bullies. At 17, he moved to Canada alone, taking a job cleaning boilers at a lumber mill. He wore a hazmat suit in the summer heat, shoveling out toxic residue for $18 an hour, while others quit for easier, lower-paying work. It was an early demonstration that he would endure extreme physical misery if it meant achieving a specific, calculated objective. Standard corporate management views this 100-hour-a-week commitment as a recipe for burnout. Yet Musk uses it to occupy the lead position in the automotive, aerospace, and artificial intelligence sectors simultaneously. This success is the result of treating human productivity as an engineering problem. Instead of following established management standards, he optimizes his time using the same physics-based logic he applies to his rockets. This chart compares a standard 40-hour workweek to Musk's 100-hour baseline. Over 10 years, the standard worker logs 20,800 hours. Musk logs 52,000. In a single decade, he generates 31,000 extra hours of output, the equivalent of working 15 additional years. He applied this math during the 2018 Model 3 production hell. When the factory fell behind schedule, he slept on the production floor for weeks. By living at the bottleneck, he could identify and solve engineering glitches in real time, 24 hours a day. Sustaining this volume requires a specific physical threshold. He maintains a consistent 6-hour sleep minimum, noting that any drop below that level causes a measurable decline in his mental acuity and decision-making speed. To protect his waking hours, he schedules his day in 5-minute blocks. This forces him to justify the cost of every conversation. If a meeting doesn't have a clear, immediate outcome, it is removed from the calendar. This pressure eliminates the default 30 to 60-minute blocks that define most corporate schedules, where tasks expand to fill the time allotted to them. He enforced this at X through a company-wide mandate. Leaving a meeting the moment you stop adding value is a requirement. He argues that staying in a useless meeting is actually the rude act, because you are wasting your own time and the company's resources. To apply this, audit your day in 5-minute increments to find where time is leaking. He also follows a strict 2-minute rule. If an email or task can be delegated or resolved in 120 seconds, it is handled immediately to keep his mental queue clear. This system ensures that every available minute is spent solving an actual engineering or logistical problem, rather than navigating administrative friction. These decisions are driven by first principles thinking, the process of stripping a problem down to its fundamental physical truths. It requires ignoring how competitors solve a problem and looking only at what the laws of physics allow. Take battery costs. While the industry accepted a price of $600 per kilowatt hour, Musk looked at the London Metal Exchange. The raw materials, cobalt, nickel, and aluminum, only cost $80. He concluded the markup was due to inefficient processing, so he built a factory to bypass those inefficiencies. He supports this by removing layers of middle management. Every tier between a decision maker and the factory floor acts as a filter on information. By keeping the structure flat, he maintains a direct line to the people physically building the products. This structure enables a rapid feedback loop. While the traditional aerospace industry spends years on theoretical simulations, SpaceX prioritizes physical testing and immediate failure. This approach allowed SpaceX to launch 5 Starship integrated flight tests in just 18 months. They treat rapid, unscheduled disassembly, or explosions, as the fastest way to acquire actionable data for the next build. This system treats failure as a high-speed data acquisition tool, allowing them to learn from physical evidence while competitors are still reviewing their models. This tolerance for risk began at Zip2, where Musk lived in a shared office and coded through the night. He worked on the product until morning, then showered at the local YMCA before the first customers arrived. In 2008, he faced a choice: keep his $180 million PayPal payout or reinvest it all into his struggling companies. He chose to put every dollar into Tesla and SpaceX, eventually borrowing money for his own rent to keep the businesses solvent for a few extra days. By refusing to accept conventional safety margins or timelines, he forces his organizations into a state of extreme creative problem-solving, where survival is the only option. These habits are fueled by a civilizational mission. Musk believes that humanity is currently a single point of failure, and that his work in sustainable energy and space exploration is a necessary backup to ensure the survival of human consciousness. But the cost of this intensity is visible. During the 2018 crisis, he admitted to physical and emotional exhaustion, significant weight loss, and a reliance on sleep medication just to break his focus long enough to rest. This obsession with the future comes at the expense of the present, requiring the sacrifice of personal health and relationships to maintain the necessary velocity. The pattern across his career is clear. Find a purpose larger than a paycheck, analyze every obstacle from its fundamental physical limits, and maintain an intensity of focus that ignores the distractions competitors accept as normal. This way of working requires a disregard for standard biological comfort, effectively trading personal peace for a seat at the table of history.